topic. I'm not sure why I changed my topic. I can't remember right now. I also, outside of that, not so much. But in undergrad, I also, did robotics research with one of my professors.
Okay. And, okay. You said about how they treated you inside the classroom. Right now you're still in contact with them. Any other contact outside the classroom? How do they treat you inside and outside the classroom? I guess that's the question.
They seem to treat me well. I didn't really have any issues with them inside the classroom. I didn't really see them, much. Well, I guess if I went by their office, they were, always cordial and always, always helpful and willing to, answer whatever questions I may have had. But, I didn't really interact with them too much outside of, the classroom.
Okay. Now, these last few questions have to do with the strategies you use to plan and navigate through your advanced STEM degree attainment and recommendations for other black females seeking advanced STEM degrees. So basically, if you were to write a how to get your advanced degree in STEM for black females, what recommendations would you make? So looking back on, again, graduate school, describe any negative experiences you had and how did you react?
Well, definitely the main negative one that, what I was mentioning earlier was, when I'm going to, present my thesis and I'm getting all these questions that seem like completely, irrelevant or at least inconsiderate to me. And all I could do was, answer them. I couldn't really, do much else. Like, I answered them as best as I could. And another thing that I kind of perceived as a negative thing is my school would have like this STEM awards thing every year, and I just knew that I was gonna get an award because they always would send me, like, whenever people would come for the school, they would always have me talk. They would pull me out of class, or, okay, XYZ is going to be here this day. Marquita, are you available? And I'm like, okay. So they would have me talk and do these presentations and, all of basically being the face for the department. But, when it comes time to get an award or something like that, they gave it to an international student. And not to say that he wasn't worthy of the award, but I felt that because of all of the things that I had done and just my track record academically, I felt it was owed to me. Mm-hmm. And I eventually let it go because I kind of felt like it was some other things going on, that maybe they gave him an award because I came to learn that a lot of things were tied to money and to who you had in the department. And so if they had international students in an department, the school would get more money, or that particular department would get more money. I eventually let it go, but it kind of felt, like I had been snubbed, Mm-hmm. And so I would go on to experience things like that career-wise, and I've come to recognize a lot of things are also tied to me being a woman in tech. And it's still very, very male-dominated, very sexist at time. And while I don't let that stuff bother me as much anymore, I've definitely had to deal with my share of attacks from men, on my technical ability, my ability as a developer. And it's taken it took a toll on me, emotionally, because I felt like, well, man, was I supposed to be in this? Like, I've spent all this time. It'll be 10 years come May that I, graduated, and I have been working in tech, before I graduated. So it makes me think like we still have a long way to go as far as any form of equality, because men still think very simple-minded. They think that just because they dominate a field that they can question a woman's technical ability or her ability to do her work just because of her gender. Something to tell, if I had to tell another woman, and honestly, it's my plan to get into technical recruiting, and specifically encouraging women and women of color specifically to get into STEM, and specifically computer science and computer engineering. I would tell them, to first things first, embrace being a woman, because that makes us, that makes you unique, and we think differently than men, which means we solve problems differently than men. And so we all have something to bring to the table. And if you first, then I would also tell them, just be aware that you're going to experience, and let me rephrase that. It's a possibility that they'll experience some form of discrimination because of their gender and because of their race. But they have just as much ability and just as much capability as any person, regardless of, their gender, their race, where, their socioeconomic status. None of that can determine or prevent them from being successful in tech and in any STEM field, honestly. And because I went to inner city high schools, my parents weren't the richest. I would say, we were probably, lower middle class, and of all my siblings, I'm the only one that, pressed forward, and not to take anything from them, but it just goes to show, as long as you're driven and you're independently motivated, because, in talking to you and looking back, I didn't really get any encouragement at home. So as long as you're independently motivated, you can be successful.
And that's what I guess I was trying to get at, is you're independently motivated. So was there any, and you talked about, you were driven. You wanted to go into tech because of the money. A bachelor's wasn't enough. And you wanted to do more. Where do you think that independent motivation comes from? Can you just, did you see something, or was there somebody you saw or said, I want that, or?
Like I said, I've always been driven, and I've always known, my family always, well, I shouldn't say my family, but I've always been told I was smart, from teachers and things like that. And so I think that played a part in it. I also know, of course, as a elementary and middle school student, I didn't know that we were poor or anything, because I didn't think we were really poor, but I do know I grew up in dysfunction. My parents both came from dysfunctional families, and of course, they hadn't dealt with their things, and so they brought that into our environment. And I don't know, maybe it comes from wanting to escape the environment I grew up in and to have a better life. My mom, I saw her, working a lot when I was in middle and high school, because my dad was an alcoholic, and so he would work, but then he would, maybe get drunk one day and he may lose his job or something. And so seeing my mom work and stuff a lot, I think, I'm certain that played a part in it. And even when I was younger, my mom, when she went to school, she would point out the part of her work, but I would do her papers. I would write her papers and type her papers for her. And